As Tony Stark guided the nuclear missile to the Chitauri spaceship, he remembered the words I said to him years ago. I said, Tony Stark, you're not just Iron Man anymore, the man in the suit. No, now you are more, you are the Sentry, and you have the power of 1 billion exploding suns, and now nothing can destroy you. And I want you to always remember that, Tony Stark. And as Tony Stark closed his eyes and he let himself fall through the portal, and then he opened his eyes again and his eyes glowed bright yellow and the Sentry suit formed all around his body like magic, and Tony Stark glided down to Earth using his powers. And after that, Captain America said, okay, maybe I was wrong. And then I pat Steve Rogers on the shoulder and I said, let's go eat. And then we all went and ate at a nearby restaurant that Tony Stark mentioned. And then as I was sitting down and eating their food, I said, it's good thing I didn't let this place get wrecked, and this place, shawarma or whatever it's called, kind of reminds me of Mario's a bit. Right after all the events of the Avengers, I made 2 clones of myself to leave them behind because I now wanted to go to another universe I had actually planned for years after I gained true immortality, and I also gained the ability to travel to other galaxies. Now I decided that today is the day I would finally do it. I'm going to the Underworld universe, and I decided to go to the timeline before Michael is born in the modern world because I am going to take his place and be with the beautiful death dealer herself, Celine. And then I teleported to a forest outside of town, and then as I was standing outside of town, I concentrated on the universe and the timeline I wanted to go, and I felt it and saw it in my mind, and I knew that I could actually travel to the time right before Michael was born. So I gave myself the blood of Alexander Corvinus and I decided to go to the modern era during the time right before Michael was born. And when I said replace Michael, I mean assume his identity. So I went and got all the necessary legal documents and I changed my name to James G.A. Corvinus, a name that sticks out like a sore thumb to the vampires and the werewolves in the Underworld universe. They will recognize my name, and I will definitely have the bloodline of Alexander Corvinus. I made sure of it right before I came to the Underworld universe, and I went to medical school and I became a doctor and everything else, and I even got many certifications to become a master handyman, and I even mastered robotics engineering, and all that for a very specific reason, to protect the vampires from the humans and the werewolves. And over the years my dark red hair grew out long, and I was now working in the same city as Celine the death dealer at time when the werewolves and the vampires were actually looking for me. And then as I was coming back home, the werewolves came after me to capture me. On the same night they would have captured Michael, but he continued living his life as a regular human. I made sure that they would never go after Michael but come after me instead, so I literally had to lead them to me by leaving a paper trail and everything else, and I even made my skin and my body vulnerable by turning off my invincibility. And the vampires knew everything about me. They knew I was in the military and that I was also a combat medic with many black belts in martial arts, and they even know about all my years in college as a doctor and all my other certifications, and that I'm also a robotics engineer that also specializes in artificial intelligence, and I also have the highest degree in robotics engineering. And when the vampires looked at all my degrees and certifications, some of the vampires whistled at all my credentials and they said this might very well be the most useful human I've ever seen. And then they even realized that I was born in the early 1970s, and they questioned why I haven't aged yet, and that's what hooked them about me over the years, because they also found out about my last name Corvinus, and they all found out about my lineage, and my last name is what kept their attention on me all these years. Instead of Michael, they focused on me, and that's what I wanted anyway, because I left them all a very obvious paper trail for them to see. And that's why Lucius, the leader of the werewolves, finally showed up in front of me while I was in the elevator, and Lucius said, hello James. And then Lucius was shot by Celine like in the original storyline. He grabbed me as he fell down and he bit into my neck, and he began to heal a lot faster because of my powerful blood. He gained greater supernatural powers from me than he would have from Michael. In fact, Lucius now became a powerful hybrid vampire and werewolf right after he bit me. And then Lucius transformed into a panther-like beast with his human face, and then he jumped out of the window and I put pressure on my neck and Celine walked over to me and she helped me.